he built it up through deceit, and it will come crumbling down. Not a single one of those court hearings did the court do anything about it. Alienated parents want one thing more than anything else: justice. All the evil things that the other parent did to hurt me and that harmed me and my children, he's actually doing it to himself.
Damn.
Once I read about parental alienation, I knew things were far more serious than I had ever expected, because I knew all of the psychotic and the abusive crap that had gone on that my ex had done had a definition for it and had a driving force behind it, and had resulted in 2 of my children rejecting me. I still don't completely understand how the bad behavior of one parent can cause such damage, and cause a child to kind of like forget about their rejected parent's love. And so that's going to be something that's going to take a long time for me to really wrap my head around. I mean, I see it, I'm witnessing it, I'm experiencing it, I know it to be true, but it's just so hard to wrap my head around accepting it and living my life knowing what I had with my children, and that there's no shred of that with me today. All because another parent's behaviors and perceptions of me were untamed, and he used them as his emotional regulation tool to deal with his hatred for me. When I read about parental alienation and the definition of it, something inside of me changed and lit up. And suddenly the one thing I wanted most was to rescue my children from the danger, because now I was suddenly very aware that it wasn't just a bunch of psychotic crap, and it was, but it was abuse. It was psychological abuse that they had endured. So my one desire was to get them out of there, to get them away from the manipulation, because the mother bear in me turned on, and I knew that it was danger now. And so I tried everything I could to rescue them from that situation. What they were experiencing is they had someone they trust, their other parent, manipulate their young little developing minds into getting them to a point where they felt they needed to cut off their relationship with their other parent, with me. And that is far more abusive than another adult experiencing the abuse, because at least I'm aware that it's not okay, but these children don't know, and they're just subject to it. With this knowledge and with proof of decades of abuse and alienating behavior, I put together a chronology of everything that had happened that had culminated in this situation, and I took it to the family court. I made attempts in the court system to get them to be aware of what was going on. Frankly, I was desperate to have any kind of contact with them. I hadn't had any. And as a mom, when you lose your child, or as a dad, if you lose your child, there's something desperate that turns on inside of you that's needs to have that connection with them. And it's just not normal to not have it. I believed that I was going to be getting support and justice from the family court system once they saw how despicable his behavior had been. My attorney believed that I was going to get some justice as well. And so I went down the path of having numerous court hearings, of having court-ordered therapy, and of having a guardian involved so that I could reunify with my children. And also hopefully get the court to be aware of the realities of how we got there, in the optimistic hope that there would be improvement. But the problem is that he didn't want that. Now, he feigned that he did. He fake said he wanted that, but his actions speak the truth. We were court-ordered to go to therapy, and for 8 months, he refused. He refused to pay the retainer, and he refused to schedule any therapy appointments, and he just flat out refused. And he let the responsibility of scheduling therapy land on the shoulders of the children and the therapist, which is totally inappropriate. They're minors, and he's letting these minor children schedule their therapy appointments. And guess what? It didn't happen because, one, they probably didn't want to go, and two, they're minor children. They're not in charge of their scheduling. I thought the court would actually do something about his failure to follow through with the court-ordered therapy, but they really didn't. We had 5 court hearings that were specifically about his failure to schedule therapy and to follow through with therapy. And not a single one of those court hearings did the court do anything about it. They just reminded him, often gently reminded him to do it. And with no sanctions, even though they had sanctions that they could have implemented, they chose not to use them. In fact, on the final court hearing, he requested that we be given a new therapist because he didn't like the other therapist and whatever else. He wanted a new one. And the court granted it. The court gave him what he wanted. Over the course of 2 years, we had maybe 6 therapy sessions. Maybe not even that. Anyway, 5 or 6 joint therapy sessions with me and my kids over the course of 2 years. Yeah. That's how reunification therapy goes with a dysfunctional family court system who does nothing about it, and with a parent who doesn't want to support it. They get to get away with it. So the court, just continued to give him more chances and really didn't provide any justice for our situation, and it's justice that we really needed and should have gotten according to the law. So it would be no surprise that the relationships didn't improve. I began resenting the court because they had failed to do their one job, which is to provide justice. And in fact, I consider them to be just as guilty as he is because they enabled it to continue and they enabled it to happen. One of the hardest things for me has been to know that there are multiple people, court system, my attorney, him, all these people who have done all this wrongdoing, and there's no one to fix it. And so I just have to get to a point where I accept my fate. I accept that I have been ridiculously unfairly treated, and there is no remedy available. I had to learn the hard way that the family court system doesn't hold violators responsible. They want everyone to just get along because they don't want to be the bad guys. They don't have a backbone. What they fail to see is that families like mine, where there is another parent involved that is very dysfunctional and has a history of repeatedly refusing to follow the court orders, and egregiously so, that we really need the court systems to act and to act swiftly and to hold people accountable, because otherwise the damage continues and the family continues to fall apart. So by the time we've paid all this money to get in front of the judge, we're expecting them to uphold the law and uphold the court orders and to deliver justice and to use the sanctions that they have at their fingertips to hold people accountable, because we have suffered because of their bad behavior. And so the last thing we want is for them to just give them more chances. And yet that is what happened to me over and over and over again, is that they just want to give them more chances. They didn't really want to be the bad guys and hold them accountable. And what the courts fail to see is that when they give violators more chances, they fail to see how those rulings negatively affect the victims, who are the ones that suffered already. And now they're suffering more. And so I wish they knew that the court is enabling the violators to continue to violate court orders when they refuse to hold them accountable and use the sanctions that they have available to penalize them, as they should. We waste all of our time and all of our money trying to get the needed help and justice in the most important aspect of our lives, which is our families. So with all of that, with all of the mental and the emotional trauma that I had gone through, I was at a point of breakdown. I still am suffering and trying to heal from the abuse that was inflicted on me and my kids while I lived with the other parent, and trying to heal from the trauma of my single parenting years when I made sure I did everything I could to encourage and foster a loving relationship between my children and their other parent, but he didn't do the same for me. And he made sure that he told the children the truth, which was really just a disguise for him bad-mouthing me. And throughout all of that, I'm still dealing with the financial losses. And meanwhile, while he's refusing to provide any kind of child support, he is financially putting his money on taking me through the court system. And throughout all of that, I'm still healing from the trauma of having to be the only sole financial provider of the children, and the exhaustion of working around the clock, and then to come home and have those children tell me to just go kill myself, and then to have them walk away from me and never have anything to do with me. You know, I was their sole provider and caretaker, and they see no value in me. And honestly, the hardest of them all is the trauma of being so connected to these children and loving them and doing everything I could to have a good life with them, and to have that not be enough for them. I did everything I could to be the best mom I could be, and to show my kids love, and to give them the best life that they could possibly get. And it's definitely probably the hardest thing to accept, is knowing that they view me so disdainfully and so not aligned with what the reality really was. So having shared all of that with you, that is a really brief summary of how I got to the place where I did, where I just hit a pinnacle of exhaustion from all of this. So it was at this painful point for me that I knew I needed to share my story of parental alienation and to expose the truth I knew about what the family court system really is like, and to bring that awareness to others, because I think people deserve to know what they are getting themselves into, and to know what they can really expect the system to do for them. I think it failed me. I know it failed me and my family. I had been told multiple times that, oh, if you had this judge or that commissioner, they would have done something. I don't know if they would have or not, but I know that mine didn't. My commissioner and judge just let it all happen. And it's a crapshoot anytime you go to court. It should be very objective, and it should be order not followed. Here's the offender, and here's their consequence. So that everybody knows when they go to that system what's going to happen. That's not how it works. Because I've been through it, and I have experienced the ineffectiveness of the court, and I've been through all of the textbook alienation situations that you can go through. It just feels like I can't keep silent. I have so much inside of me that I know needs to be shared, and that I feel like there's others out there who are suffering too. And so I want to put a voice to it, because I know it's wrong for my family, and I know there are others out there who are experiencing the same thing, unfortunately. And I'm sorry about that, because if you're here, you're probably going through some version of this yourself. The weight of all of the suffering that I have been going through, and the healing that still needs to happen, combined with the pressure that I was kind of putting myself to put these videos out, I kind of crumbled and hit a wall. And I knew that my mind and body couldn't take anymore. And so I took a little break to recover and let my body and my mind kind of process where I was at, and really start to accept some of the harsh realities that were now my reality. It's actually extremely hard to write what I think is going to be the script for a video, or what I'm going to talk about. I'm writing what actually happened. I'm reliving something that I really wish I could bury and move on from. The amount of pain and suffering that comes back as I write these scripts, it's quite a bit. It's quite difficult to get through, quite difficult to relive pain and trauma and abuse and suffering. So I just have to take it at the pace that I can handle. So here we are. Even though it's extremely difficult for me to go back and relive those experiences that I really wish I could bury because they're so painful. I feel really drawn to do this, to create content for a community of people who are in various stages of the same type of grief that I'm going through due to the loss of their children, and to be here for you. So I'm just here to let you know that I am renewed in my commitment to bring content about divorce, parental alienation, personality disorders, and the defunct family court system. Once I learned about parental alienation, I quickly, saw all the big people who were in the industry talking about it, and some of them would say, you have to just get over the fact that all that crap happened to you and jump past the healing process and just get straight to this place of like, I'm the chosen parent and I think that's wonderful and all. And yes, we need to get to there. Yes, we have to be the healthy parent for a child. And yes, we do need to move past. And yes, we do need to still demonstrate healthy behaviors to our children, even though we're the one that everybody's picking on unfairly. Yes, all that needs to happen. But there's this like giant chasm that was totally missing for me, which was that, dude, I've been through hell and I need validation and I need understanding. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with. I need the education. I need support. I need to go through my own healing. And so I can't just skip over all of that. I needed to know like that the court knew what actually had happened. And unfortunately, nothing great came from that. But for me, it was the process I needed to go through to get to a place where I can accept healing and I can accept moving on and I can accept the unfortunate reality that it is. And so that's where I want to talk, is to talk about what the harsh reality is that you are going through, what the harsh reality is that I'm going through. How do we deal with it? How do we overcome it? Then how do we heal from it? My story is about domestic abuse, parental alienation, and recognition of personality disorders, and of course, divorce. So I am aware that there may be someone who will watch this video who is going through one of these crises themselves. It is a very serious situation. It can be difficult, if not seemingly impossible, to leave an abusive relationship. And the rejection of a child from parental alienation can totally blindside you. And that is why I'm here talking, because if bringing awareness to this topic helps even one person to maybe catch the signs a little earlier for them, maybe you can find better resources, or maybe you can just go along with me on my journey and find strength and support. While I was taking time to heal these last few months, I found myself regularly getting very angry at God because this has been going on for decades. And it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. I always thought I would be done with it when the kids turned 18 and I would just finally be free. And that's not the reality, because when you have alienated children, you'll forever know that the other parent was involved in that. One day during my healing, I just kind of remembered a scripture that I had memorized as a child. It's Matthew chapter 25, verse 40. Inasmuch as you've done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. And I've always kind of viewed that scripture in the context of, like it says, in later verses, if you have clothed the naked, it's as if you have served God. If you feed the hungry, it's as if you have served God. And this particular day, it hit me. If he does evil against me, it's like he's doing evil against God, right? Here's the thing. Alienated parents want one thing more than anything else. Justice. Tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm wrong, you tell me what you think it is, but I think alienated parents want justice more than anything because of the wrongdoing, the total unfairness of the situation. And it was not to be found in the court systems. And so then we're left with like, now what? When does this ever get made right for me? And I started to question, well, if the courts here don't hold him accountable and they have their way of thinking, is that how God thinks? Like, is it going to be the same disappointment when I meet God? It has been heavily impressed upon my mind that is not the case. All you got to do is read the Word of God. And then the question is do you really believe it? So in this journey of trying to discover healing and an understanding of what I think God thinks of this, is this answer that came to me this day. If he is going to harm or hurt me or my children, it's like he's doing it to God. But it gets even better than that. And here's how. In Proverbs chapter 8, verse 36, he says, "But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul." Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how amazing that is to think about. What does that mean? It actually means that all the evil things that the other parent did to hurt me and that harmed me and my children, he's actually doing it to himself, right? If he tells somebody a lie about me, it's as if he's telling God he's a liar. All the times he refuses to pay child support and he devises a plan to get out of that responsibility, he's telling God he's dishonest, deceitful, and untrustworthy, and unwilling to be a real father. When he taught the children to not call me mom anymore, maybe he's telling God that he shouldn't be their father. When he badmouths me, he's telling God that he's full of untamed hatred and lacks self-control. When he devised ways for the children to get around my house rules and to sneak around and undermine me as a parent, he's telling God that he is an irresponsible and evil-minded parent. When he tells the children that I don't love them or care for them, he's really telling God that he's spiteful and malevolent. And perhaps he's telling God that he truly doesn't love his children. So in other words, all of the words and actions that he did against me, he really did them to himself. And it'll all be used as a witness against him when he meets God. And so for the moment, he's accomplished the design of what he was after, but he stole it. He didn't earn it. And it will be a short-lived win because he did it by tearing others down and through deceit. And that is not honorable. And what is truly valuable is possessing an honorable name. So one of the key parts to my healing process over the last few months has been to realize that all the things that the other parent did or said or caused to be done through his action or his inaction, he didn't do them to me. He did them to himself. And that's really important because it can be really easy to get into a victim mindset and to feel really sorry for yourself as an alienated parent. I know it. I've done it. I've been there for a while. But it can also be really empowering to step back and not allow yourself to think that he did that to you or she did that to you. And that's incredibly empowering. You can just go ahead and stand back and say, I'll let you self-destruct. What you are doing is only harming yourself. You are not affecting me in any way. I am unaffected by what you are doing because I know who wins in the end. And that is God and truth and honor and goodness. I already know that. I already know how this will all end. And so I can put my trust in that. I can put my faith in that. And I can put my healing process in that. And I can allow him to go ahead and continue to do whatever he wants to do because what he is trying to do and the gain he's trying to get, he built it up through deceit, through hatred, and through evil, and it will come crumbling down. It cannot stand. So knowing this and believing this allows me to believe that justice may not be here yet, but it will come. It will. And that means I can focus on myself, and I can start to focus on what I want my name to be known by. And, I hope that I can be a person that can overcome. I hope that I can be a person who is resilient. And I am starting to believe that I can heal from the most painful injustices, and that I am not a victim to this, but that it was actually done for me. God willing, someday my children will return to me, and that I will have that loving relationship again.